is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Well, welcome into another edition of Three Ma. I am John Kurtz, joined by Derek Young and Cole Manbeck as we continue our preview of the football season, spring preview, I guess you can still say, here in May. And we make our way to the final position group. I guess maybe we can do specialists or something too. I don't want to leave them out. Okay, they're people too. But the corners and safeties, the secondary, the last of the offense and defense that we have not hit yet is what we will hit today. Make sure that you are ready when you hit Bill Snyder Family Stadium later on this fall with Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon and 360 Wildcats. Get ready for your tailgate experience. And hey, you can use some of it at the lake between now and then, all right? Ben Holiday Bottled in Bond Bourbon. Rave reviews all around. People love it. Cole loves it. Cole's got a ton of it. Cole drinks too much of it. Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon. Get on Cole's level and support our friends at Holiday Distillery who graciously support us here on the pod. What does that look for, Cole? I mean, I don't know. I'm on the Discord, patreon.com/3ma, by the way, if you want to be a part of that. And you can see Cole's drunken, incoherent ramblings and crystal balls that usually come in on Friday nights. So, I just attribute that to the Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon, but maybe it's something else. I don't know.
Yeah. Like once or twice a week, it gets a little fun in there. But I can tell you that there were a couple different times where people just assumed I'd been drinking Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon, and I had not. So just my personality, I guess.
What was the Cliff crystal ball? What was that? Cliff Omori crystal ball?
That was 4 glasses of Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon in when the Cliff crystal ball came. So, yeah.
Okay, well, you too can submit incorrect K-State sports predictions if you would like to get some Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon, and make sure that you're doing it in our Discord, patreon.com/3mod to be a part of that. All right, the corner room has gone through a little bit of transition. I mean, look, Will Lee was what we felt like a really big get last offseason. Somebody we were very excited about. Great junior college corner. And while he did have at times a productive season, it was definitely a disappointing end. He opted to hit the portal. K-State did not put up much resistance on that. He is now at Texas A&M. But K-State still does return Keenan Garber and Jacob Parrish, which is a really salty couple of starting corners, and that's probably where you start when discussing this room, is that Jacob Parrish is somebody who's been on like star trajectory from the moment he got into the program and really turned heads as soon as he did. Then Keenan Garber, who got thrown into the fire in the Big 12 championship game, moving from receiver to defensive back just weeks before, held his own and has since put together a nice track record of being a good, solid starting corner in the league. So with those two back, you got to feel pretty good about where the room starts, T.Y.
Yeah, I don't think you have any qualms or concerns about the starting group. I think last year Kansas State essentially had 3 different starting quarterbacks, right? Not that they were all on the field together at the same time. They were not, but I mean, they were pretty much interchangeable there with Will Lee, Jacob Parrish, and Keenan Garber, and 2 of those returned. So I think that's a good jumping off point. If you were going to go glass half full or glass half empty, because that's glass half full, you would be like, well, last year you had 3 guys you felt comfortable with considering starters, and you probably do enter this season with just the 2 there, with Garber and Parrish, because everyone else is probably much shorter on experience. There's less known about them. They're not nearly as productive or as highly touted. But that next group, I would say, still has the potential to provide you with that sense of security that you also had last year. Justice James has played minimally, I would say, sparingly, not a ton of snaps, but the snaps that he's played, I've actually been pretty impressed by what he's been able to accomplish. So that's an older player too that I think has the ability, maybe the juice to really provide quality depth behind both Garber and Parrish. So I think there's a solid chance that you'll get what you need just from Justice James alone. But if not, they got 2 young guys really waiting in the wings that I think that the coaching staff is pretty excited about. How quickly they can get up to speed and be reliable. be guys that you can depend on is probably the question mark, even though you really have a sense that they're going to be heavy contributors at some point in their career, and that's Donovan McIntosh and Nigel Thomas. I think you're looking at potential multi-year starters in both of those guys, just from the chatter that we hear. But how ready are they as redshirt freshmen? That's a question. And actually, I think Nigel Thomas is actually listed as a sophomore because he played more than 4 games a year ago as a true freshman. So McIntosh being the redshirt freshman and Thomas the sophomore. So I think you got the 2 starters you want. And then when you look at depth, I think you can kind of see it materializing in a positive way, but it's also, wait and see because it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I mean, Donovan McIntosh is a guy that's kind of built in that Will Lee mold, 6'3", 180-pound corner who redshirted last year. K-State beat out some good programs that were after him. I think he's got a ton of upside. Nigel Thomas, as you mentioned, DY, he played special teams quite a bit last year, so he did not redshirt. He is listed as a sophomore on the roster. I think he's somebody that they probably view as ready to play at some point this season in cornerback more and to see an increase in time. Justice James is a guy that I like, a guy that came out of Tyler Junior College a couple of years ago when they brought in several guys from Tyler, actually. He suffered an injury his first year, redshirted at K-State, then last year played in 11 games. I think he's certainly got some potential, and he's an experienced guy that I think can be that. He'll probably be that third corner. But I think K-State, you talked about it, feels very good about their top-end corners in Keenan Garber and Jacob Parrish. I think they view those guys as big-time talents. I mean, Parrish was 6th in the Big 12 last year in passes defended. A real speed guy that has really good coverage skills. There were some communication errors last year early on in the season, but I think Parrish is a really good player. And then Keenan Garber, the upside, the fact that, he really still has only played corner for 1 full year when you consider that he was only thrown in right before the Big 12 championship game for his first time at corner in his entire time in the program. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think he'll be a really good player that they can count on. If those two can stay healthy, I feel really good about this secondary. And then, we'll talk about safety as well, but as I look at the safety depth guys, I feel very good about where they're at there. And I don't think they'll do this a lot, but Marquis Siegel is a guy that has the capability to slide down into the nickel or into the slot coverage and play a little corner as well as needed. And I think they have the capability to do that because they have so much depth at safety. Again, I don't think they'll do that a ton because he's so good at safety, but he has the coverage skills to slide down in a pinch if needed at corner.
Yeah, fair point. And look, the thing that we always say, I know you guys probably get tired of us saying it, is that these coaches always find a way in the secondary. The development, I'm not sure that there's a position on the roster where development is consistently better than defensive back, whether it's corner or safety. Nickel, they've just churned guys out to very productive careers and then on into the NFL in those spots. So Joe Klanderman, obviously is tremendous at doing that. Got to give Van Malone credit for his room there too. So I don't doubt that they will find some answers here. And as far as the high-end upside goes, DY, I know in your spring preview on 3, which you guys should go sign up, KSO, you predicted that one of these guys was going to wind up first or second team All Big 12, and you seem to be more bullish on Garber out of the two. Are you changing that, or would you stick with that prediction?
Yeah, I think I could see one of them definitely. Because I think it's 2 quality corners, and K-State's been so good at that spot, and they'll have to be tested. I could see one of them. I'm really torn on who it is now. I guess I actually didn't recollect that I was more bullish on Garber at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But
you said you think Garber, right?
Yeah.
Don't back out of it now. And Keenan is counting on you, DY.
I would say the strong argument for Garber is that despite being older than Jacob Parrish, is such little time at the spot and has done so well that maybe there's even more potential to unlock it that's untapped there. So that would be how I would defend that. What I will say is this on the flip side, and just trying to almost play devil's advocate, but just kind of give the whole perspective. That is that with Garber, with Parrish, and even to an extent, Justice James, there is a certain amount of length that is lacking there that you've had in the past handful of years, whether it be Julius Brents, who's enormous, right? So he was 6'3", 6'4". Will Lee, similar in size as well, similar in length. You don't have that kind of length. You don't have close to that kind of length with Garber, Parrish, and James.
Well, you don't either with Kenigel Thomas, right? Another 5'10" corner. So
yeah, you do with McIntosh.
Yeah, McIntosh is longer. Now, I will say is I do think Jacob Parrish and Garber, they have longer arms, so at least they have a little bit of wingspan to them, but they're not the tallest guys. Yeah, and I mean, we've seen, what was it, the Texas Tech game where Jerron Bradley just shoved Parrish out of the way last year? Now, that should have been OPI.
They might be, I don't know if I would say Garber is incredibly long, Parrish long in relation to his actual height, but the length just isn't there the way it's been in the past. And I don't know if teams will be able to take advantage of that or capitalize on it. Something to keep in mind, because really, I think the only corner that you could foresee that maybe busts through this rotation that has that kind of size and length and perhaps physicality is Donovan McIntosh.
Yeah. No, I think those are fair points. I would say, when we talk about Jacob Parrish, though, as well, people have to remember that this is a guy that's a true junior. So he didn't redshirt as a freshman in 2022, and he got thrown into the fire in the Big 12 championship game like Garber due to injuries, and he played the majority of that game as well at corner. And so you think about the upside of him. Last year was really his first year starting a full year at corner in the Big 12, the experience he gained in Joe Klanderman's system, and then also Garber. You think about both those guys coming back another year. They've adapted. They've learned the system. I think you could expect jumps from both of them. The good thing about this team, you've got a lot of guys back in the secondary, especially that I think could make jumps. You think about a Siegel in his second year and transition to FBS football from North Dakota State after starting every game last year. You think about BJ Payne going into his third year of starting as well, a guy with the tools to be a supreme talent. So there's a lot of pieces that have picked up the system over the last couple of years that I think are ready to make jumps and become even better players. So I really like this secondary. If they can stay healthy, I think they have the pieces to be really good back there on the back end of that defense.
DY's got me a little paranoid now about the length. I hadn't totally thought about it like that. Garber's kind of gangly. Can't we give Garber gangly?
A little bit. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's that limiting either. Because both those guys are really sticky cover guys, so that helps a lot too.
Yeah,
it's just something to keep in mind.
What would you rather have, DY? Would you rather have, and John too, would you rather have length, but they'll occasionally get beat, or would you rather have a burner that can be a little bit more sticky coverage?
I probably like it the way it's been the last 3 or 4 years when they get about one of each. Well, I don't have that this year. That's why I bring it up.
Yeah. I think I definitely would take Julius Brents, a second round pick who could kind of do both.
No, I meant like a Julius Brents with who was the other corner on the other side that was smaller, Echo Boydell, right?
Yeah,
he was more sticky cover. Yeah. So you had in the past you've had sticky cover guy and long physical guy.
Man,
even last year with Will Lee, with Parrish and Garber, you had both.
Well, that length didn't help him tackle Iowa State's running back.
Well, that length was great for about 8 games, and then checked out the last 3 or 4.
Yeah, he's at A&M, right?
Oh, the length gave extra oomph to the shove that he gave Abu Sama, and it gave him extra force to throw behind him on the touchdown run. So that actually wound up helping. Yeah. Well, I'm in my home field apparel today. Is anybody else joining me in the home field apparel department? I'm sure Derek probably had.
We mentioned Kai Thomas and Kent State yesterday, so I'm going to rep them today.
What is it? Right City, Kent State? I don't know. What's the Kent State saying?
Oh, can't read, can't write, Kent State.
Derek's got the Kent State home field apparel shirt on today. So DY and I are team players here. Go to homefieldapparel.com and use promo code 3MOD23 for 15% off your first order. You can get 50 plus K-State designs. I really do. I love this. Like K-State, like the baseball tee, like kind of 2/3 sleeve, 3/4 sleeve shirt. It's awesome. If you want to get 100 plus other teams like DY, you can do so as well, but it's the best college gear around. Everybody is wearing it. If you hop on Twitter, you will see that college football fans across the country are all wearing home field apparel. So homefieldapparel.com, promo code 3MA23 to get 15% off your first order. We're back with the safeties in just a moment.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Interestingly enough, the secondary is the place where K-State was hit, at least in terms of big names, hardest on the team by the transfer portal, because we mentioned Will Lee. They also lost Kobe Savage, who went to Oregon and now may have been recruited over a bit with the way that Oregon has been adding safeties to their roster. But look, that is somebody that provided a lot of value for K-State over the last couple of years at safety and was a part of a Big 12 championship. But K-State has gone to the transfer portal once again to potentially replace him in Jordan Riley, who transfers from Ball State. That is the thing. If there's one thing to trust on this team, it's if they add a transfer safety or transfer defensive back, you can pretty much chalk them up to be an NFL draft pick or at least play in the NFL. That has been the track record of these guys for the last 4 years. Marquise Siegel, another one of the transfers that's been added, was very productive last year. He is back. BJ Payne, program guy. Another one kind of like Jacob Parrish that early on, once he got into the program, a lot of talk about how good he was going to eventually be in his career. So K-State's got some real frontline talent and seemingly depth in the safety room. This has to be, I don't know, DY, where would you rank it in terms of best rooms on the team? Safety, I would think, would be up there.
It's up there. It might be, if you take into account both depth and quality, it might be number one on the team. And I asked, and this is a little inside baseball here, but I asked Chris Kleiman at the Catbacker Tour in Salina, with this excitement around this team, some real firepower, some real talent that might be comparative or comparable to the team that won the Big 12 title. Is there a certain position group on this team that you would say is the best that you've had since you've been at K-State since, 2019? And he kind of is like, you never know, but a lot of these guys, we haven't had them practice yet, haven't practiced with one another. Some of these guys haven't played a lot of college football yet. So the talent is, like, a lot of it in some ways is unproven talent that they really need to develop a rapport with one another. But he said if he was going to say one thing, it's the most safety depth he's had since he's been in Manhattan. So that kind of goes to your question. Look, you mentioned Jordan Riley. I hate saying this because it takes a shot at other people, but I do think they upgraded there because I think he can move a little bit better than Kobe Savage, and he is so physical. We've interviewed him in person 2 or 3 times in Veneer, and he is just physically just a monster in terms of just how stacked he is. Marquise Siegel, maybe I'm jumping the gun here. I think he has the potential to probably be the best safety in the Big 12, like up there. Not saying like the best draftable safety in the Big 12 because that's probably a little bit different, but I think college football-wise, I think he's one of the best safeties, if not the best safety in the Big 12, and I think BJ Payne's going to continue to get better. And I think you essentially get a 4-starter as well, in my opinion. I think Colby McAllister is that good. So that's why I really like the depth here as well, because Colby McAllister, every time he's played, and he's actually ended up, at this point, played quite a bit more than we expected him to, and especially at the end of last season, was really good. You didn't notice a drop-off when he played. So that's why I consider him in that fold. You brought in another JUCO guy, Dante Thomas. And Nikendre Steiger and Daniel Cobbs are ready to play and be depth guys as well that they like. Jack Fabris might be one of the most improved players on the team if you talk to people inside of Veneer. They're excited about Wesley Fair as well, another guy coming on. So there's a lot to like about the safety room. And I'll just say I think it's the best safety group in the Big 12.
Yeah, so when I was going through this to prepare for this show, DY, I started writing down all the safeties and all the corners, and I was like, at corner, there's probably 5 names I feel comfortable with. But then I kept writing safety, and I came up with like 6 to 7 names just kept going, guys that I think could be good players for this team, and you named them all. you got the upside guys and Jack Fabris and Wesley Fair who are going to be redshirt freshmen, and we know they like Fabris going into last year. He played a little before I think he got dinged up. That's a guy I think they're going to be able to rely on this year. If they can just get something from either one of Wesley Fair or Jack Fabris, that gives them a fifth safety that they could rotate in, because Colby McAllister has played a ton of snaps, as you noted. And then obviously, look, I think Marquis Siegel got a bad rap last year because he dropped some interceptions, and they had some communication errors early on in the season.
He dropped a lot of interceptions. Yeah. To be honest, if he had regular hands, he probably had almost 10 interceptions last year.
And what I take away from that is not so much the drops, but the fact that he was there in position to make the play.
I mean, that's clutch. That's why I think he's that good.
Yeah. So that's what I want from the corner. I want the corner to be there to make the play, and I think he'll be better at, obviously taking advantage of those passes and picking some off this year. But the versatility that he possesses, his coverage skills, I think he's going to be a tremendous player. I don't know if I would go. I'd have to assess the whole Big 12 landscape and like what Utah and other schools are bringing into the Big 12 as far as best safety in the league. But I certainly think he could be a first team or second team all Big 12 type safety. I would argue BJ Payne has the capability to make that jump as well, just because he's got the physical tools as he's now gotten more experience and could maybe make that jump too. But yeah, Siegel got a bad rap early on in the year. I think the Missouri game, there were some coverage busts, and I don't know whose fault that was, but people were pointing the finger there. I thought he got significantly better as the season went on, which makes sense because he's a guy that was adjusting from North Dakota State, the FCS level, to the FBS level. And as John noted, you can trust Chris Kleiman when it comes to transfer defensive backs and Joe Klanderman, as we've seen what they did with Josh Hayes, Russ Yeast, Julius Brents, just to name a few. Jordan Riley, you noted, DY. I mean, he's bigger than Kobe Savage. Kobe Savage was around 5'10"? Jordan Riley's listed as 6'1", so you get a little bit bigger there at safety, 190 pounds. A guy that started the last 24 games, the last 2 seasons at Ball State, played in 37 games in his career. Certainly has the capability to be a really good player. And the system, you like that he was here for spring ball as well, to give him a leap into the season, give him an early head start. So, yeah, I feel comfortable with 5 to 6 guys at safety, which we know they like to rotate there, and they play 3 safeties at a time for the most part. But that's why I mentioned earlier in the show, well, I wrote down 5 corners I feel okay with. And if you get an injury or two, you're going to be relying on some inexperience there. That's why I think having a guy like Marquis Siegel who can move around and could play corner if you need him to is a really valuable asset, because I think you have the safety depth to fill in for him if he does have to slide in a corner for a game or two.
Cole, my biggest takeaway from all of that is that I'm just a little disappointed that you're bowing at the altar of Utah, because we don't bow at the altar of Utah around here. That's why I like that DY just went ahead and proclaimed them the best safety group in the Big 12. I'm sick of, look, Utah's attitude here and the attitude of some, who just view it like, the Pac-12 was great last year. Utah, they're just going to roll in. And Cam Rising, in his 18th year of college football with his 5th right knee, is going to just come in and dominate the league. So we do not bow at the altar of Utah here, Cole.
I'm sorry, Utah came to mind because they typically have pretty good defenses, but I was just listing out an example of a school that I don't know what they have on their roster necessarily, other than you see them right there with K-State in terms of over-under wins predictions set by Vegas, I think each around 9.5 for this season. So, yeah, I mean, Utah's got an easy schedule, not to get off topic, but man.
What I will say is a good point on not necessarily having the research or the tools at my disposal to necessarily know like what everyone has in their safety room. The reason why I was okay with saying it is like, if your safety room is this good, I have a hard time seeing a lot better.
Well, I mean, look, the bottom line is he doesn't have to be the best safety of the Big 12. You feeling comfortable proclaiming that statement just says how good you think Siegel is, how good this safety room is. Yeah.
I think Siegel's really good. I think Kobe McAllister's really good. I think Jordan Riley is going to be really good. Like you said, I don't know if he's quite 6'1", being around him. I think that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but he's a physical specimen and perhaps one of the most mature people I've ever interviewed.
Yeah. Was it Daniel Cobbs that got thrown in the Oklahoma State game last year? And still,
yeah, I mean, he did fine. McKittery Steigers, he's battled some injuries, but he's played well when he's in the game.
Yeah, and then you mentioned Dante Thomas.
Steiger's a name that I remember from a couple, like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, it feels like he's been here forever.
Yeah, it feels like he's been here forever, and he was a guy that they were like, this sneaky pickup here could be really good. Nobody knew much about him when he came in. So, yeah, I mean, seeing that he's still around gives you even more confidence there. By the way, Utah misses both Kansas schools. How the hell does that happen?
I don't know. I just know I looked at their schedule and I was like, man, that's
there are certain teams that this you can't really get away from it. And this is going down a rabbit hole, but there's certain the imbalanced schedules are really imbalanced. Like I was looking at like Arizona State and West Virginia. I mean, they play real difficult schedules.
And you're getting me excited to do our schedule breakdowns, DY, when we run through the schedule later this year.
I was looking at like Arizona State's schedule. Like I think on DraftKings, their over/under win total is like 4.5. Like I couldn't come up with 3 wins on their schedule, to be quite honest. And then I did West Virginia's because I think their win total is like 6.5 on DraftKings. And boy, I don't know if they can make a bowl with their schedule. And I already expect some regression with that roster because I think they were pretty fortunate a year ago.
Poor Arizona State. They've got to go to Arizona, to K-State, to Oklahoma State. They host Kansas. They're at Tech. They host Utah. Boy, yeah. Arizona State.
Look at their non-con. Look at their non-con.
Well, it's Mississippi State, Wyoming, and Texas State, but
they could go 0-3 with that. Texas State's pretty good for a group of 5 team. And it's at Texas State.
It is at Texas State. Yeah, it's on the road. They lost Rashad, although he was in a quarterback competition anyway, but they lost the really talented quarterback that they had. Anyway, I guess maybe that'll be the tangent for today. Freaking Utah. Like why are we gift wrapping this for Utah? Brett Yormark does some great things. He nails big picture stuff for the conference, but when it comes to like managing the conference, strategically placing the schedules so that Utah doesn't come in here and gloat in year one and, producing accurate tiebreakers and not changing them in the middle of the season. We got a little bit of work to do there.
What I will say too is, Utah did. Kansas State did too. According to someone was telling me they looked at the SP Plus of what Kansas State and Utah have. Like according to SP Plus, Kansas State and Utah actually have the easiest Big 12 schedules.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way K-State's schedule falls because I like 3 of the road games being very winnable with BYU, Houston, and Colorado. So I like having those 3 games on the road because I think they're games that K-State should win comfortably, actually.
No. I just think the only thing that I would say about their schedule is, and SP Plus is not going to share this, right? It's just a formula based on the data of the specific teams. Is some of those trips, how they happen, where and the kind of trips they are a little tricky. Like going to West Virginia and what you have to do to get there is odd, right? You have to fly into Pittsburgh and do all that. BYU is similar because I think you have to fly into Salt Lake and do the whole thing to Provo. So their trips are odd, and 3 of them are in the mountains. 2 will be in elevation. I don't know how much that comes into play. You had a weird game at Tulane. Like there is some potential hiccups just in the way that it is designed.
I think their 3 hardest games on the entirety of the season are at Iowa State, at West Virginia, and KU. I rank those higher than Arizona and the non-con.
I would definitely agree on KU. I would definitely probably agree on Iowa State just because of the nature of that rivalry and where that game is positioned and the implications that it may have being the last game of the season.
West Virginia, I can't get with you on, man. And I'm
really this year.
They return a lot. I mean, they return a ton.
Yeah,
I
think last year. I just think last year was
but off a team that got a hell of a kiss on the schedule with 9. I mean, that was to me that was like a 7-5 team that they had last year.
It was an incredibly fool's gold. I thought I expect some hard regression there. Could be wrong. I do agree on some doubt on Arizona. I will say that. Just because here's a few things, and we talked about it on the KSO show with Mason. I didn't, because it was asking what we all had to pick a different one, but which team you really like could kind of be below expectations. I had to pick last, so I did go Arizona. Here's the thing: is are those that great core of players that they have returning, and they did return them, are they as good with this coaching staff because everything is a little different. Like those players might not be as good in this particular system. 2, usually teams, and this isn't foolproof, teams that come in and play in a new conference that first year, so there's not a lot of familiarity with the teams across from them, tend to struggle. We've seen that before, right? They just don't know what these teams are. They don't have that, educated past or whatever. And 3, and this is going to come as a big slight, like I'm not sure that coaching staff is any good. I never looked at San Jose State and said, man, a Power 4 club should really take these guys.
Well, that was a huge Twitter debate because you have one side that says like San Jose State is basically like impossible to win at. So the fact that they did a little bit of winning there, basically like the historical precedent is that they did a hell of a job, that staff. The outsider just like looking at the overall record and accomplishment view would be, what the hell are they doing hiring that guy? So it's kind of the old Rorschach test, like the ink blots, and you can look at it and two people can see completely different things there. I think there's just enough transition between moving conferences, losing some guys, not the big guns, so the transfer portal, and changing coaches. It's a lot to expect Arizona to be ready to roll in the non-con for that game. I think that will benefit K-State there. Yeah, Cole, maybe you're right. Maybe I'd have to go really parse it through that West Virginia could still be the third toughest game on the schedule. I am a little, frankly, offended that you think that a game against one of the cover athlete teams of NCAA football 25 is not going to be a difficult road trip at all.
Colorado, is that who you're asking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I'm not.
That'll be a fun game to discuss, but I might be more down on Colorado than I was last year.
John, I already said on a show we did a couple weeks ago when it was Dylan Edwards that committed that K-State was going to blow the doors off Colorado and Boulder. So, I've already put that out there. K-State will hang 45 plus on the Buffs. I think they win that game by 21 plus.
Your thoughts on Travis Hunter being then on the cover? Member of the Silver defense?
He's good.
Yeah, he's a great player.
Yeah, he is.
Too bad they don't have more great players. So,
I won't talk down on Travis Hunter. He's not as big of a clown as Shedeur Sanders, and he's really, really good.
Yeah.
People were mad that Shedeur Sanders was not the one that made the cover, and it was Travis Hunter instead. That was a source of some debate. All right, look, any final thoughts on the corners and safeties?
I feel very, very good about the safeties. I feel good for the most part of the corners. There's a little bit more work to be done there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they clearly made it a point that they didn't need to go out and add a corner in the transfer portal in both the winter and the spring window.
Just about to ask, do you guys think that was a mistake to not more aggressively pursue a corner in the portal?
No, because you do have to balance these things, and they're really good at this. Sometimes you take one, you lose one, right? And I don't think you wanted to risk I think they were willing to go through this development period with Kanikel Thomas and Donovan McIntosh on the field rather than taking a transfer and losing one of them.
Yeah. I mean, I thought they were going to take one initially when the portal opened, when I looked at the roster, but then, we continued to hear corner is really not a priority. I trust this staff, as we always say, with the secondary especially, and so the fact that they didn't feel like they needed to go get a corner tells me they feel really damn good about what they've got there.
Yeah, another and this might not ever come to bear, it might be very inconsequential, but I thought Tyler Nalome at one point was probably going to enter the portal. I think he's been banged up for a good portion of his career since transferring in from SEMO. He's an older player too. I maybe not ruled that one out. He wasn't pushed out the door. He didn't go out. He didn't willingly go out the door. So maybe there's something there. Who knows?
He's 6'2", so you talk about longer corners. He's a bigger corner as well that, potentially could see the field.
Okay. All right. Well, we feel good about the K-State secondary. We've made it through the entire team minus the specialists. We shall see. You want to discuss it more? You always can on our Discord at patreon.com/3maw. It's $5 to sign up. get extra bonus content. Cole's big boards. We'll do extra shows. We'll do extra Q&As, like live Q&As that you can be a part of. And the Discord is a huge draw if you want to be a part of the conversation daily. And I have to promote Cole. Cole gave a little bit of football news, kind of like coded, but if you're smart, you can figure out football news that is happening in the Discord. So Cole had that out there this week. You can come be a part of it at patreon.com/3maw in order to do that. Big thanks to our friends at Holiday Distillery. Go get your Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon. Thank you to Home Field Apparel. It is homefieldapparel.com, promo code 3maw23 in order to get 15% off your first order. And thank you to Nick Springer behind the scenes. For Derek Young and Cole Manbeck, I'm John Kurtz. Thanks for listening to another edition of 3Maw.